In the last episode, we covered what to do when work seems too overwhelming and you have too much going on. But what if you find yourself in the scenario where you're on the opposite side of that and things are starting to get lean? What's up, guys? Ian Sandusky from Lakewood Machine Tool back here again for Practical Machinist. And today on Machine Shop Talk, we're going to be going through some strategies and things you can do to help get your shop out of a slump should you find yourself in one. But before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so as promised today on Shop Talk, we're gonna be diving into the end of the pool that unfortunately I think we all end up swimming in from time to time. And that's a scenario where the order book is starting to get light, bills may be starting to scare you and figuring out how you're gonna pay them, and generally you're slow and you're getting a little bit concerned about the future of your shop. So first off, let's say you find yourself in the above outlined situation. Put it lightly, things are getting slow. Maybe you're not completely dead in terms of orders, but you know, you had you're rocking and rolling, you had a 6 to 8 week timeline for delivery, and now already you're seeing that delivery timeline start to shorten up. Or, you know, maybe your big customers are going through some restructuring, maybe it's their dead time of the year, maybe you weren't expecting it, and you're not getting those reliable orders coming in that you may rely on in order to keep your shop going. So the first thing to do in this scenario, and it sounds silly, but it's the most important thing you need to do, is not panic. I'm gonna speak from experience on this one because I've been in this scenario where things have gotten slow many times over the years, many times within the last couple of years, many times within the last few months. You know, it's something that happens, and it's something I've been through, and I know a lot of you guys have as well. The absolute worst thing you can do if you find yourself in a scenario when things are slowing down is to panic. If you're panicking trying to figure out how you're gonna make payroll, complaining about work drying up to your guys, if you're going way too hard on your sales calls and getting way too pushy, this is going to reek of desperation. Desperation is not something you want to communicate to your customer base or to your staff. For one, in order to have your guys be in a scenario where they can do their best work, where they can be reliable, where they can feel well taken care of, they need to have stability and trust in your business. If you're kind of walking around, running around out of control on your floor, talking about, oh, I don't know what's going on, I don't know if we're gonna be able to pay for the machines, oh, I don't know, we might have to slash overtime, before you even really know if that's a reality or not, that's gonna communicate to your staff that they cannot trust your place of employment. You know, you can't underestimate how attuned employees are to the health of a business. If you are communicating to them, openly or just inadvertently that there's trouble, or at least you are panicking because there's trouble, that's gonna kind of signal to them to say, hey, listen, I haven't dusted off my resume in a while. If this place is gonna fold within 3 months, maybe I should start looking for something else now. One of the biggest things that happens when you see that death spiral of a company, when it goes from things are good, starts spiraling down to, hey, we have to close. One of the biggest steps in that spiral is when the good employees who work at a place end up leaving. And if you're driving them to leave by panicking, this problem ends up compounding itself because you have the good, reliable, educated, experienced machinists, manufacturing professionals, whatever they are, that your company relies on in order to function. If they get spooked and start leaving, now the people that are remaining may not be as skilled, may not be as experienced, and even if they are, all of a sudden now they have this increased workload that they have to shoulder in order to keep your company going. They get sick of it, they leave. It's a problem that keeps compounding itself onward and onward. So if you're panicking and you're communicating that, hey, listen, things aren't good, you essentially are kicking off that cycle, whether you know it or not. Secondly, when it comes to communicating this kind of panic to your customers. If you're panicking and running around out there trying to drum up work and communicating very clearly that you are desperate, you are not going to attract high-level, profitable, healthy working relationship work. You are going to get work that is reserved for desperate, hungry companies. You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. We all like to think that we're rational, thinking, normal people out there. There are bad actors out there that are pretty much sniffing around, you know, the bottom feeder type customers who, if they say, hey, this company is dead and looking for work, sure, I'll milk them for all they're worth until they fold. You know, yeah, if we usually pay $100 for this part, we'll see if I can get it done for 50 because they're cheap. And you know what, if they fold, I'll move on to the next one. These kind of companies exist, unfortunately, and they're out there. And if you're communicating your desperation, that is like chumming the water for sharks. So you do need to make sure that you are not getting overly desperate and panicking when you're communicating, hey, listen, we could use some work to your customer base. So the first step is stay calm, don't panic. Remember that even the best, most successful, well-managed, forward-thinking companies have these boom and bust cycles. No company is rocking and rolling, all cylinders firing, 12 months of the year, 365 days, 4 decades. Every company is gonna do this. That's the way it goes, and hopefully there's more time spent up here than down here, but inevitably every company is gonna hit a slump. It's a source of stress, but you do need to maintain perspective that this is probably a temporary thing. Unless you've done something horribly wrong, or you know, literally you're living in a scenario like the Great Depression and every company is folding, this is probably a temporary situation. All you really need to do, and this is something my old man taught me, was even in these dead periods, really what you have to do is manage to be there, turn the lights on, keep your guys employed, and be there to answer the phone, survive long enough to answer the phone when the orders start coming in again. That is your priority, and it's gonna happen. If you take the perspective of panic and everything's going wrong, you've already lost. So let's say that you've now managed to stay calm. Let's get that out of the way. The second thing you should do if you find yourself in a slump is contact your customer base. As outlined above, if you're calling all your customers begging for work, that's bad. Conversely, if you go and contact your customer base and say, hey, listen, I have some upcoming machine availability coming up in my schedule. Do you have anything with some tight timelines that you need taking a look at? Or, hey, listen, our typical lead time used to be 6 to 8. Just calling to let you know, we're probably running a 2-week lead time right now. So if that's helpful to you, please let me know. That's a completely different approach and impression than, hey, listen, do you guys have anything going on? We're really desperate here. Completely different impression given to that customer base, and it provides completely different results. For example, we had a period a few weeks ago where we hit, you know, a little bit of a slump. The order board was kind of light, you know, it wasn't desperate, but you know, we were getting kind of slow. So I made calls and said exactly what I said, like in that phrase above, to my customers. And one customer that, you know, they're the kind of customer that they're a 10 or 15 quote to every order type ratio. You know, the kinds that we always quote, we don't usually get it. Not the most communicative all the time on why, you know, whether it was pricing, whether it was lead time. That's fine, they're busy people, I get it. But I called them, I hadn't heard from them a little while, and I communicated that, you know, hey, listen, we got some time coming up, our lead times are dropped. And they literally said, hey Ian, you know, honestly, one of the reasons why we haven't sent you anything lately is that you were quoting out 4 to 5 week timelines. And we need this stuff, you know, we're kind of a reactive business, we need it in 2 to 3. So actually, I have this big job right now. Why don't you do some pricing on it? So on and so forth. We got the job. Life is good. Had I not called and communicated that, we would not have gotten that work. You have to remember, unless you have the kind of customer base where you guys have weekly meetings, or it's the kind of customer where you're over at their plant or they're at your plant, you know, multiple times per week, you typically are not going to have the insight into their company to know what they need or what stuff is looking like there. And conversely, they probably don't have that insight into your company. Think about it. If you're constantly sending them 4 to 5 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, price point here, That's what they think, that's what they're gonna assume you operate under. So if that changes, and all of a sudden you can be more reactive, or, hey, listen, usually I won't take this kind of stuff on because it ties up the lathe for too long. I know you do some of this stuff, just letting you know if that comes up, I have some time for it. That is letting them know that you're available for it, and it changes what they're assuming about you. As I've said in other videos about doing sales, chasing up work from your existing customers is almost always going to be far more productive than trying to chase up new business. In terms of the amount of energy spent versus the amount of productivity the amount of stuff you're going to get out of it, it's always a more useful and valuable use of your time rather than chasing up new work, because hopefully these customers already know what you can do. Hopefully you have a good working relationship, and they understand that you have the quality there. You're not trying to break into a new business and go through that whole song and dance of preliminary quotes. Well, can you even do this? Hey, let's do a test piece. You're getting out of that whole song and dance. So chasing up work from your existing customers should be your kind of focus if you're trying to drum up work in a lean time. So let's say you've done the first two things and you're still not busy, you're still kind of lean, but at least you're not panicking. You're just kind of in a scenario where you are light on work. The third thing to do is leverage your productivity. So let's say that I have a machining cell with 3 machines, and usually I have 2 guys run it because we're busy. The cycle times are a little long, but you can get 1 guy to sweep the floor, whatever it may be. If you're lean, now is the time to actually put 1 guy on that, but not because you should use that other guy as a way to cut costs and send him home. Conversely, I would actually take that second guy and say, hey, listen, you know that project we've been putting off for a long time to build a 4th axis trunnion table? Why don't you go start programming on that? Or, hey, listen, you're an operator, we haven't had a lot of chance to train the way we want to. Why don't you go partner up with one of my more experienced guys, and I literally just want you to shadow them for 2 weeks. We've done that, and the guy will come out, the guy or girl will come out far more educated from that 2-week intensive training than sometimes 6 months on the floor, because you actually have the time to do some training. It's all about leveraging the productivity that you already have now, as opposed to guys standing around staring at the ceiling. Look at projects you can do. Do you have a product that, you're a job shop, you have a product you've been thinking about, hey, listen, if we ever had time, I would have loved to try to market and sell this product. Now is the time. Do you have fixturing or reprogramming for one of your big jobs that keeps getting put off because you just don't have the time? Now you have the time. Use that time to do that. All those kind of things that you put on your back burner. Have a list. I literally have a list on a whiteboard saying if we run out of stuff to do or someone needs something to do, here's some projects that I want to take a look at. Even just reorganizing one of my units so that it's easier for when we get busy again. Now is the time to do it. And the whole point of this is that if you instead decide to cut your labor, so instead of using your labor, you decide to cut it, lay people off. I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's something that's worth repeating. If you lay a guy off, or a guy, girl, worker off, you are probably not gonna get them back. One of 3 scenarios is gonna happen if you lay someone off, in descending order of probability. 1, they're probably gonna get a job somewhere else. With how competitive the labor market is, everybody's looking for skilled people. If someone has even the basest amount of skill, if you lay them off, there is somewhere else right now where they can go work, period. And if they go work somewhere else, unless you have a real tight working relationship with them, they're probably gonna stay there. The next thing that's probably gonna happen in order of probability is they're gonna leave the trade entirely. I feel like on the forums, on the Reddit forums that I read, it's constant seeing guys saying, hey, listen, I'm leaving the industry to go sell real estate, or I'm leaving the industry to go into accounting, whatever it may be, I'm going back to school. If people get laid off from their existing careers in machining, there is a very non-negligible chance that they may leave the trade entirely. And if they do, not only are you not getting them back, no other companies are getting them back. The talent pool shrinks, period. And we've seen this happen since the 90s with offshoring. If you give I don't want to say that you want to keep people hostage in the trades. People should be free to do whatever they want. But the more people that leave the trades, we need to be attracting people to the trades, not incentivizing them to leave. And then the third option that may happen if you lay someone off, this is the least likely, is that they sit at home collecting EI and then they come back to work in 6 months. This very rarely happens. People don't want to sit around. People, you know, as much as we like to say it, people like to be productive. People like to do things. People are not going to sit on EI basically waiting for you to call them back for any length of time. Rarely it'll happen. EI, when I say EI, that's the Canadian version of employment insurance. I don't know what it is in the States or Europe, but very rarely they will come back. Most of the time, if that happens, one of the first two scenarios is going to happen. So essentially, you want to do everything you can to keep guys employed. As we said in the last video about when things are too busy, you need to have a bank account or a war chest with enough money to keep people employed for when things get lean. Because when this happens, if you are not prepared, if you are over leveraged, you can't make your machine payments, so you got to cut guys, it's only going to start that death spiral going for you even quicker. And even if you do manage to survive it, you are going to be putting yourself back in the race compared to where you were, and now you're going to have to make up all that time to rebuild your base. You don't want to do it. Make sure you have that money to survive these lean times put away in advance so that you're not scrambling when they inevitably happen. Remember, short of a full-on recession or depression, most companies do manage to survive the bad times. Very rarely is it a bad time for everybody at the same time. I know we're looking at some uncertainty. I'm not an economist. I don't know what's going to happen. But do keep some perspective that very rarely does everybody experience the same problems at the same time. So all you got to do is just keep going, wait for it to get busy again. In any case, guys, I'd like to know in the comments below some suggestions you would have for other companies when they get slow. How did you guys manage to get through it? What were some things that worked? What were some things that didn't work? Let us know in the comments below, because this kind of stuff is critical to help build our industry and keep it coming back. And as always, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. You take care.